Horus is back at it again. I've loved the innovations that this deck has carried with it. Some good old Yubel, and some other little innovations that you've probably missed. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more. I was going to be starting up here with the weekly breakdown for Dueling Nexus events. And as you're going to see, this is the Lad Horus deck, and I have loved keeping up with the innovations that this deck has had and brought to the table out here, because this is one of the coolest control decks you can kind of make in modern era times. You know, Lightning Darkness Dragon is an insane card. All right, like, people don't know how to play around Lad right now, and the fact that you're able to deploy this crazy monster on the field and have your opponent look at you and go, what's that thing do? You just put such a pressure on your opponent to burn through all of the resources. And guess what? On the following upturn, you know, Horus just goes ahead and regenerates its entire field, typically with 4 monsters, which you just OTK your opponent with. So Horus made easy out here. Good stuff to actually see. Next up is Minkanko. You know, Minkanko's kind of taking a little bit more of a back seat here in the TCG, which I blame on Isolde kind of disappearing from our format, but no Isolde here. All right, like, this is just the standard. You break your opponent's board, maybe hand up a lava golem. You set up this basically easy stuff where your opponent can't really find a way to try to out whatever monster that you've produced on the field. It does not mean that the deck is super crazy, but I think more or less for environments like this, you're going to see more of these strong suits kind of come out here and do their thing. You gotta love rogue picks, especially, you know, there's a Yubel deck in the top cut of this. Like, imagine Yubel versus Minkanko and how toxically annoying the battle of the 0 attack monsters must actually have been for something like that to actually undergo. So kind of cool to actually see this doing well. Speaking of our Yubel list here, we are playing Yubel with a little bit of an Unchained go-to package down here with what looks like 1 Shyama in the deck with the 1 Unchained Trap, which is fine. And it looks like, I can't tell if that's Skill Drain down there or not. I do see talents. Of course, you know, you're playing Super Poly. Double my favorite Yubel Super Poly Fusion material in here for the deck. I think a lot of people, you're going to underestimate what Yubel can functionally do as a deck until it's 2-0ing you and you're just like, how? What has caused this to actually happen? It's, honestly, Yubel is one of those cards right now that you look at for the way that it intends to combo interact with the opponent. And I mean, you can also toggle up into the biggest Yubel too, and your opponent's just going to be like, well, what's that thing do? And, you know, you just continue on with this pressure. It's very interesting yet again. And then our last list out of this event is Silent Forces, aka the Voiceless Voice. We just got 1 new support card for this deck, but I think this deck has a problem with Rogue. I don't know if you had noticed, but the amount of Rogue that was present in the event, you had Yubel, you have Minkanko, you know, you had this Horus pile winning the event. You know, how is Voiceless Voice supposed to accommodate to the craziness that's plowing out of this event? Like, that's the biggest thing that you got to think about here. So I appreciate the meta results here. I think it's interesting to see the shift and change that's kind of, you know, moving around with out here for this. But if you cannot accommodate to the massive shift that you are seeing with all of these decks, then unfortunately you're going to get left behind in, you know, the craziness of the meta shift. That's just kind of how it is for, you know, this stage. Moving on along here, we have Unchained out of the OCG, and I've been continuing to kind of want to look at a lot of these Unchained lists that do pop up, because even though the OCG still has Shyama at multiple numbers, I think it's important to see and consider, you know, Unchained was not super successful at all before the TCG got a hold of the deck and started innovating it. Now, you know, TCG really can't play Unchained anymore because Shyama's limited to 1, unfortunately. But the OCG's kind of taken up the mantle a little bit, and they've been exploring this deck and kind of finding ways to mess around with it. And I think that's a good thing. You know, you can see the ratios and things, the double super poly for the board breaking. a lot of the notoriety from the TCG build shines through on this build. And of course, the Gas Tour Guide. Absolutely gotta love it. And of course, Dimension Shifter and good old Soul Release. All beautiful cards that you have to play right now because of the toxicity of the fire meta. Good stuff. I guess you love to see it. Next up is this Eldritch? Yes, this is. I mainly wanted to cover this event because of this build right here. You hardly see any Eldritch variants doing anything anymore. And out of left field here, okay, so we're playing a mini Horus package. Well, I guess this is technically the full-fledged Horus package, if you want to call it that. 3M City, your 1 copy of Hoppy, and then 2 King Sarcophagus, giving you those huge bodies to put up on the field. We also play the 1 Insect Buzz King in here as well, Dingereese. You know, your standard level 8 finishers. And then, guess what? We also have the Apostle Deity in here as well for your triple Golden Lord, so you can do all these little swings. And it appears that we are playing Mistake in here as well. Technically, if your opponent can't stop Mistake from interacting, or getting the searches, also, Soul Drains in here as well, you just kind of freely win against your opponent. So those devastating clauses that your Floodgates can put on the field actually are pretty important here. Next up here, oh boy, I knew we were going to get to the Fire King section eventually out here. To be honest with you, Fire King has kind of taken a little bit of a step back in a lot of these more localized environments. I'm not sure what necessarily happened for this to actually happen. With Legacy actually taking into its new say here, a lot more of Fire, maybe, I guess, more variety, more things that people wanted to try out here for their meta, but we have seen just a necessary step back in all of this. Also, we're still playing the triple Soul Release. You have the triple Droll. You see the Phantasme down there. All the standard things that this deck, you need to be able to stop this deck. The snowball of the advantage. It's all present for this. And of course, shout out to Zelantis. Firelock myself so I can get a free board wipe. Marincess did it first. And never forget the craziness that came with that, alright? And then, of course, we have... Oh, now this is kind of cool. This is Snake Eyes, but we're playing the Evil Zor package in here. I don't know... A lot of people haven't really put one and one together yet with the idea that you're able to use this section of Evil Zor cards to make RARs down here and put, the suppressor on your opponent. Also, Dolka's a heck of a card right now, man. People just don't look at these results and consider, hey, do I really want to go down these sorts of lines of play? Honestly, it depends on the build. You also see we're playing the subversion of Snake Eyes down here as well. You have the Anti-Spell Fragrance, and of course, this build does get to play the Dramatic Chase. And we do get to play Singularity in here as a trap interruption summon through the opponent's turn. Yeah, you gotta love being able to just trap up, whichever one of your friends that you need from the extra deck to keep that punishing power on your opponent. So, wraps up another tournament here. Now, we have one more tournament I want to look at out of this weekend here, with Melodious taking this down. This was one of those 2v2 events, where they get to play 2 decks, but actually seeing Melodious, this has been a pretty common occurrence out here in the OCG, that this deck has been coming out here and doing crazy things. You also see we do have different Dimension Grounds down here in the side deck. You have the triple Chaos Angel as well, like, pretty crazy results to kind of think about out here. And then, of course, their partner was, of course we'd bring Snake Eyes, right? Like, why would we not? You actually get to see the new Snake Eyes Pobbler Smasher 9000 machine up there next to the Flamberge Dragon. And also, 2 Flamberge Dragons in this build. A little bit more than I think people want to see, but I think that's fine. Triple Bonfire, triple Wanted, your field spell, everything that you're used to seeing in this deck with a little bit of extra saucy variety is present. And then we have Rescue Ace. Hey, look, finally, we have double Pobbler in here. You gotta love that. The deck only has 1 emergency, which is so crazy to think about out here, that the OCG has been, restricted so much by this. But Rescue Ace still shows up. It still feels tier 1, but that 1 emergency hurts so much. See, we also have double Super Poly in here, the Earth Golem Agnister for the little extra push that you need. Triple Soul Release, okay. Looks pretty standard. And our last list here is some more Fire Kings. Man, You gotta love meta. Only one Fire King Island in here, though. That's kind of crazy. But you do see we are playing 1 Delta, 2 Epsilon. And of course, it looks like, gotta love play the 1 brick. You also have Solemn Strikes in here as well. Kind of interesting to see that Solemn Strike getting a little bit of love in here as well. Not too bad. So what do you guys think about this good stuff? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back later in the day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.